Welcome, welcome. I am Dr. Patrice Berry, and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. And here I share educational information on a variety of topics. Today, I'm going to be talking about a very difficult case. And let me gonna go on ahead and put my disclaimer up. And I want to set some boundaries for this stream. So, one of the first boundaries for today is I might have to pause sometimes just so we can breathe. I'm not going to go through all of the details because I think Natalie Lawyer Chick, she has done a phenomenal job covering these cases. And also, like she's a lawyer and she's broken down the legal aspect of this. I'm coming from this from a psychological perspective. And I will never do these and not give you some type of tools and resources. So, right in the description, I have resources because chances are, and please don't share if this is you, but chances are I will have people in the stream who are survivors of SA. It's unfortunately incredibly common. I'm going to share some statistics. It's also very common for it to be an individual that you're acquainted with or that you know well. That's actually more common than something happening from a stranger. But often in our minds, the thing that we really fear is a stranger. So I know when I leave the office, I'm always like checking corners and my husband, he has no like says often so while men can be victims of SA as well, and it often is underreported, both male to male SA, and then also if the male is a victim of SA from a woman, that often goes very under that is underreported. Um, and but women, we are socialized to have this fear, and I think about when I was growing up, I was told, "Hey, if you're at a bar, don't accept a drink that you haven't seen the bartender make, or if you walk away from your drink, don't come back to it." And there's all of this shame that can come up for victims of SA. And when we get to talking about the fourth victim that's come forward and filed an allegation against Diddy and one of his business partners. And this is all allegations. So even one of the boundaries for today is Diddy is presumed innocent. So that is in the US, that is something that we do. People are presumed innocent until they're found guilty. So I will use allegations. I'll also just monitor the chat as well because we don't blame or shame victims. And then I also want to be careful about language that people use. Now we can talk about the facts. So with Diddy's case, there are other people who have come forward and corroborated a lot of Cassie's claims. And to me, that's just a fact. Like these other people have come forward and said, "I saw this. This happened." And her case was incredibly strong, and I think that's why it settled so fast. So let's start with the case of Cassie Ventura, who dated Diddy for a long time, and the beginning of their relationship, because the hard thing was she was his he was her boss. He was the one who was in charge of her career, and he was the one that had authority and power over her, and it was easy for that type of relationship to turn into a coercive one. And because of that, I think often HR departments in organizations, if there is a CEO or if there is somebody in a higher position that's dating somebody that's under them, they will often say either you need to end the relationship or we need to sign, like we need to make sure this is consensual. And then we need to make sure that you are in no way involved with their evaluation, with their care. Because let's say he was going to date her. In my opinion, I think he shouldn't have been in charge of her career, and she's also like, it sets up this power dynamic that can make you legally responsible later. Thank y'all so much for watching. Like, I'm so glad that you all are here, SL, you are here right on time. Somebody asked me to cover this. Okay. So somebody was like, please talk about this case and talk about the psychological impact that something like this can have. And so I do want to talk specifically about survivors of this type of, yes. And so I, I've given y'all the trigger warnings, and I am not going to go into the details. Okay, we are going to talk about what happened, like in general, but I'm not going to get into any of the specifics of what happened. Um, Natalie lawyer chick, she did a phenomenal like, she read through, okay? And the lawyer for Cassie, who's also the lawyer for the 4th victim, they put a trigger warning, which is the first time all the lawyers I've seen cover this, they've all said they've never seen a trigger warning on a lawsuit before. And they think they likely knew that this was going to get some media attention, and just for people to know, like, "Hey, as you download this," because they get I'm taking a breath because, like, Cassie's and the one that I heard last night, it was it's really, really hard to hear, okay? And I hear horrible stuff at work, like, I've carried space for a lot of really difficult cases. I've also worked with survivors of trafficking, both teenage, or individuals who were trafficked as youth, and then also adult survivors as well. And that just adds a unique experience for this conversation. So, a lawsuit by singer Cassie containing allegations of physical harm by music producer Sean Diddy Combs has been settled, and it was in within 24 hours. Within 24 hours, this lawsuit was settled, and in that time, so the thing that really came to my attention was the fact that she mentioned that somebody involved with music, and I think the lawsuit specifically mentioned Kid Cudi, that he had showed some interest in her, and that Diddy had allegedly threatened to blow up his car, and his car did blow up, and and Diddy put some money on that situation to kind of allegedly to make it go away. And Kid Cudi did come forward and said, "Yes, my car really did," like that, yes, that really did happen. And, like I said, within 24 I've never seen a lawsuit settle this fast, and she was suing every single organization, that Diddy is connected to, including any that she might not be aware of. And, when people talk about why would someone settle? So, if she had to have her day in court, I think she was prepared for that. I think the fact that she was saved, number 1, the legal expense. So this lawsuit was going to be incredibly expensive. So the lawyers, they're gonna have to do all these depositions. They're gonna have to look at all this discovery. They're gonna have to they're gonna have to file all these motions. There's gonna be all of this that happens. This lawsuit was probably gonna take a very long time, and it was probably gonna be very expensive. There were probably gonna be appeals, yeah, and it was probably just gonna go on for a really long period of time. She did talk allegedly, she talked about her the things that happened to her with a therapist, and so that means that her mental health records were going to come into play, and that was going to add another dynamic to all of this. It would have been the defensive's job. So this is why I understand when my clients, when they come to me and they tell me what they've experienced, and then if they say, "I just couldn't go through with the court process." The court process, so the alleged person, they are presumed to be innocent, which kind of makes people automatically try to think that the persons that's making the allegations, are they telling the truth? Like, that's and it's going to be the defense's job to tear apart their character and to like, pull up every picture where the person is smiling, and the defense was just going to drag her through the mud. I think I understand an individual saying, "I don't wanna go through all of that." And I I get I get it. Um, I wonder how she feels because this 4th allegation, this individual, the Jane Doe in the 4th allegation specifically mentioned in their lawsuit paperwork that Cassie's case was what gave them the courage to come forward and make their allegation and show, and for them to come forward. Once again, assumption of innocence, and there can also be a pattern that starts to emerge because this is now the 4th lawsuit, and there's a chance that there could be more, and ugh. Alright, so let's keep reading through this part here. Um, they released a statement, so, like, they came to an agreement where everybody agreed on everything, and that was that. In her statement, Ventura said, "I have decided to resolve this matter amicably on terms that I have some level of control." So the thing that a survivor of any form of harm, the thing they need desperately is control. They can't control what happened. So what happened has happened, and there's no way to change that. But moving forward, she was able to say, "Okay, this is I hate to say good enough, but, like, this is I'll take that amount, okay, and just to be done with it, okay." And she also mentioned thanking her family, fans, and lawyers for their unwavering support. So, Diddy or Combs, he said, "We have decided to resolve this matter amicably," and then he still says her name and her family, ugh, I'm sorry. The allegations, they make my stomach churn, and I think he still alleges that they were false, but okay, I will leave that part there. Okay? So now we are getting to the fourth allegation. Let me come back to the chat just to make sure I haven't missed anything. 24 hours was incredibly fast, okay? Like, when I say I have never seen anything settle that fast. And so I have heard a lot of things, okay? Uh the details in Cassie's, because 'cause we're talking about 10 to 11 years. We're talking about this long period of time where it sounds like things escalated and escalated, which is common when someone is, if so what I'll say is it's common for things to escalate in an unsafe relationship, okay? I will leave that there. I agree. Deacon Fatal, I personally think he was really afraid of discovery. Because this was gonna because of the period of time, they were gonna dig into his finances, like, they were gonna dig into everything. Some of these other allegations, it's not a significant other. This is gonna be about, like, one incident, or it's gonna be about, like, 1 year. It's not gonna be these years that, Cassie was involved, and she was his employee. These other allegations, now y'all probably have been following these better than I have. I know the most recent one was allegedly just someone they met at a bar, and I don't believe any of the other ones were actual employees, okay? I it's so easy to be kind. Like, it's so easy to just get consent. This is a great place for me to stop and talk about consent and talk about the things that sometimes I don't think power or money makes people do things. I think power and money can sometimes people that already kind of feel entitled before they ever had a penny, like before they had anything. There's some people that, and I don't know Diddy, I don't know. I'm saying individuals like him, individuals like what he's been alleged to have done. That I think that came out right. Individuals who are facing allegations like his and who have the type of public position, all of those things, Consent is so important because sometimes individuals that are famous, they can kind of think, "Oh, it would be a joy," or it would be like they should feel glad or proud that and like, ugh. So I'm gonna say some things that might be triggering, but this is often because 'cause we're trying to get into the mind of somebody that might do the things that he's been accused of doing, okay? And that place is a very, very dark place, okay? So with that, individuals that do these types of things, they often feel entitled to the person's body. They often feel, "Oh, I bought you dinner. I I did all these things, like, almost like a you owe me," and no. Or they, back in the day, so really with the Me Too movement, more started coming out about consent, like, that consent should be an enthusiastic yes. That saying nothing, that is not consent. If a person is completely, intoxicated to the point where they can't walk, they are unable to give consent. Someone that is I don't care how they dress, I don't care what they do for work, and that one really applies to individuals who are sex workers. They are often victims of because they often agree, "Hey, I'm okay with this," but then sometimes people go too far, and they often, unless it's in Vegas or a place where it's legal, they often don't have any recourse because which is and people that do those types of things know that. And, if you look at the Delphi case, so the allegations that are there, a lot of the victims were, I believe, were sex workers, and, sometimes the police don't even look for like, it can be hard to get them to take a missing persons case, and, like, when people hear one particular thing, they automatically sometimes they start making assumptions about the individual's character. And for me, no one deserves to have their body boundaries violated. There's a great book for kids that I often for if I am working with clients and if they have issues with boundaries, we will read. It's called Body Boundaries and Consent. I have it linked in my Amazon. I think it's the kids resources page because it just goes through even babies have consent. So this starts if my friend, if they're handing me their baby and their baby is like, you know, their baby is like it's screaming and yelling and they clearly do not want me to hold them. I'm not gonna hold their baby. Like that's just easy to do. I'm not gonna do it. Or if, my two-year-old or so I have a six-year-old, so I don't force my son to hug anyone. Now we do so, like, when grandparents or somebody comes to visit, it's like, okay, you can give them a fist bump, you can give them a high five, and sometimes you see those pictures at schools where the teacher asks, "Do you want a hug? Do you want a high five? Do you want a fist bump? Do you want to wave? Like, what is it that you want to do?" And that's teaching kids early that your body is yours. Because especially, I'm just going to say it, especially within the African American community, sometimes this, but they're your family or there can be the secrecy of don't tell because it's your family or everybody in the family knows that there's that one uncle or that one person that gets a little too handsy. And so make sure that the kids don't go around that person. And I am all for breaking silence because the biggest thing that victims of SA need, they need their voice. And to me, what Cassie did is Cassie got her voice back, and she was able to say, and whoo, whoo. And I don't know if what they came to so I don't know if there's an NDA where she can't write a book or she can't do a surviving Diddy, I don't know what their deal entailed, but just reading her lawsuit, to me, she was able to tell her story and get her voice. Often what I do when I work with survivors of SA is the biggest thing is helping them. So not everybody's gonna believe them, and not everybody's gonna have the reaction that they want them to have. And I've worked with a lot of people where sadly, when they went to one parent to say something that a family member had done, they were told, "That didn't happen. You're lying." Or, "Why would you say that?" Or they were they were really, ah, they weren't believed, and that can be incredibly soul crushing for a survivor, and that's why a lot of people don't come forward because like because they already can't control what happened, and sometimes people's response can and I hate to say it but the only words I have are sometimes it can be worse. People's reaction. So this alleged, this family member did this, and when I went to tell my parent, they told me like the fact that my parent didn't protect me, that can sometimes be more traumatizing, or that can leave a really big impact on someone. And so that's why I take this time to really talk about this. Ooh. Okay. So Becoming Unfiltered. I love your YouTube channel. You share all the celebrity stuff and all the everything. So you think, so I don't know. She can write a book. There is no NDA because she has sued his companies as an employee and not him as a person. Nice. And often NDAs don't cover, which I found out with the Tiger Woods lawsuit, which was dropped because there wasn't. Tiger Woods's ex-girlfriend, based on the allegations, it sounds like she got mad because they broke up, and she didn't have a house. She didn't have anything besides, like, maybe some gifts, or I don't know, like, it sounds like she wanted to get out of her NDA, but there was nothing that happened that would give her a legal reason to come out of the NDA. So she sued his company, but, like, it was a whole thing. The judge dismissed it. It was a bit of a mess. So, I think Becoming Unfiltered, I do think she did sue him personally too. I thought he was personally named. I could be wrong. I could have sworn that he was personally named as well. I could totally be wrong. I know that he had to step down from one of his companies because of this, and I saw, uh T, let me know the results of your poll, because I saw you do a poll the other day of should he have to give back any lifetime achievement awards or so I'm very careful after, like, when allegations came out about Michael Jackson and Bill Cosby and all these, like, famous people and celebrities, I'm careful who I put on a pedestal because, uh, ugh, like I said, sometimes people can get a little entitled where they think, like, I'm so amazing. Who wouldn't want me? Who wouldn't want? And it's just like, ugh, ugh. It messes with me. Ugh, wow. Elvis married a 14. Yeah, like, so when things like that come out, it really bothers me. All right. So let's get to the most recent lawsuit. Okay? And let's talk about it and let's dig a little deeper. So, all right. A fourth woman has accused Sean Diddy Combs of SA, alleging in a lawsuit that when she was 17 years old, she was harmed and trafficked by the music mogul, along with Harve Pierre, a former longtime president of Diddy's record label, and an unnamed individual. So the Jane Doe doesn't know who the third individual was, and she's hoping that through the discovery process that they might be able to identify who that third individual was. And so she claims that it occurred in 2003. She was 17. Now, so I was in Natalie's comments when she was going over the details of this case. And so the allegation is that it started in Detroit, Michigan. It started in Detroit, Michigan, and then they ended up taking her on a plane and flying to Diddy's label in, I wanna say, New York, and she has pictures, and so, like, she was taking pictures because, like, at 17, it would've been really cool to get to go fly on a private jet and do, but I wouldn't have wanted to have been harmed, and something that sometimes the victims can feel guilty about, if things happen the way that she said, sometimes there might be some guilt of, "Maybe I liked one of them, but I didn't want to be drugged and and all of them," or what might have, like, there can be a lot of guilt and shame where it was like, "Well, I did sit on his lap. I did do this or that." And me as a therapist, I repeatedly tell my clients, "It was not your fault. You should be able to get completely intoxicated and not be harmed." That the individual that did the wrong thing, when people are under the influence and someone else takes advantage, I blame the person that took advantage. Okay? So often what'll happen, because we talk about those male female socialization things. So when me and my friends would go out, we would typically always have somebody stay sober so that they could watch and make sure that we all go home together. That, hey, we're not going out and going home with somebody else. I hope my first college roommate, so I had a college roommate my first year, and there was a boundary violation. There was someone, and I don't even know who it was. Somebody was brought back to our room, and I was in the room in the middle of the night, and I had my very first panic attack because it was like at, I don't know, it was like at 1, 2, 3, I don't know. It was in the middle of the night. I don't even know what time it was, but someone came into our room. Nothing happened to me, okay? So nothing happened, but the fear that something could happen was so like I was in the top bunk. I didn't get out of my bed the whole night. And like I said, nothing happened. And then after that, me and her had a conversation and set a boundary of no outside visitors staying the night in our apartment. My roommate first year, like I said, I hope they don't follow me. I hope they don't. If they do, it's fine. Because they ended up getting their stuff together. Like they ended up like, but we were not good roommates. It was not a good fit. uh Me and the roommate that I roomed with for the next 3 years after her, like, we ended up connecting and yes. But what I saw is that I didn't trust that she wouldn't bring some random person back. Like, this wasn't her boyfriend. Like, it would've been different if, like, my roommate brought their boyfriend back, like, okay, that I've met and I know, and, like, when I go to sleep, he's there, but, like, this was in the middle of the night, and I did not feel safe at all, okay? And somebody brought up the fact that the 17-year-old was in a bar, like, she used to frequent bars and lounges. So I snuck in to my first club. I think I might have been 13 or 14. My cousin, it was a 16 and up club. So some places have, like, 16 and up clubs. I was not 16. My cousin lied to the bouncer and said that I lost my ID and that I was 18 or 7 I was 17, I don't know. He said I was something. I truly was visiting from out of town. And, they just, because the 21 and up, you got a ban to get alcohol. The bouncer didn't care. We were paying to get in. And so the age he said, I got the underage ban, and it was fine. But my cousin, like, watched me all night. Like, I did not have fun. I did not have fun at all. My cousin, he was in the Marines, I think he was in the Army, and I don't know, he was military, and he was, like, giving people looks, like, all I could do was, like, dance with my family, and, like, that was it. Like, that was all I could do, and he, like, watched me like a hawk. Because my mom knew that I was going to the club with him and my other cousins, and, my mom was like, "Okay." She wasn't thrilled, I'm pretty sure. I don't know that she was thrilled that I was going to a 16 and up club in Florida, but I went, I it was it was what it was. Like I said, my cousin was super protective, and so, like, I don't remember it being, like, a ton of fun, but, like, I got to say, "Hey, I snuck into a club at, like, 14," whatever. So but I can do that at 14, 13, however old I was. I think I was going to ninth grade. So and depending on I have a summer birthday, so depending on what time of the summer it was, that would have indicated how old I was. But I was not 16. That's the one thing that I do know. And, and thankfully, like I said, the family watched. So, like, because there were some people that were like, because like, you're out, people look at you, people might be interested in people, but that does not give anyone the right to violate anyone. That never ever gives anyone the right to violate anyone. Ooh, Lisa, I paid attention to the horrible details of R. Kelly's federal trial. Yeah, yeah. Oh, and he was found guilty of those, and so yes, yes, yes. Y'all have those 16 and up clubs, and I'm guessing San Francisco? Yes, yes, yes. He was the worst wingman, okay? I would say his name, but he would not appreciate that. He was the worst wingman ever because he knew my mom, if anything had happened, my mom would have been like, it would not have been good. Y'all think Miss Johnny is all nice. Mm-mm. It would not have been good. But he made sure that like no, so I don't think I danced with anyone. Like he because he knew like I was 13 or like I was a child. I was 13 or 14 years old. And so I'm thankful that I had some protection. And especially hearing a horrific case like the one of Jane Doe. I hope that gave us a little break because we are going to get back to the complaint. And so once again, I don't care that she was picked up from a bar. Allegedly, something happened with Harve Pierre where he allegedly forced her, um, yes, to he essayed her, while they were, like, in a restroom, like, he made her go to a restroom, and then it sounds like from the allegations that she was then, like, whisked onto a plane, like, "Oh, come meet my best friend Diddy," and then they ended up in New York, and she was able to share pictures. So the picture on my thumbnail that has her face blurred out, she is, sitting because so she alleges that Diddy asked her to sit on his lap and that they ended up taking a picture, and horrific things happened, and he allegedly watched, and, like, it was just there was horrific, horrific things, okay? And, um, when people talk about, "Okay, why are they coming forward now?" Okay? So why don't people tell? Teens often feel powerless, okay? Having an ongoing sense of fear and vulnerability. I don't know her family situation. Jane Doe, they didn't really put a lot about the family situation. I have seen individuals prey on kids in foster care or kids with, broke like, with the not broke, but, like, kids that had high conflict, like, they were frequently running away from home. There were a lot of issues at home. I've seen people prey on individuals in situations like that, and to where if something happens, they don't wanna get in trouble with their family. Let me take a sip of water. Okay. There can also be this sense of betrayal, no longer being able to trust others' good intentions because you might have thought, "Oh, I'm gonna have this," because sometimes the person's world can kinda come crashing down if they or, like, they never imagined it was gonna be that bad. There's a lot of stigmatization, feeling secrecy, shame, and or damaged related to what happened. And then there can be this, traumatic thing that happens where some individuals, will associate being intimate with fear and pain and coercion, rather than what we would want them to associate it with, which is pleasure, intimacy, and choice. So, why don't they disclose? There's a lot of emotional pain. The one thing that I will be interested in for this fourth lawsuit, because in Cassie's disclosure, it does sound like she did talk with at least one or possibly multiple therapists about what happened. There was nothing mentioned about the specifics of the emotional distress or the specifics of how this Jane Doe has been impacted with, if she's had difficulty working, difficulty maintaining employment, or so there was this general thing at the end, and this is based on my watching Natalie go over all of it. Natalie Lawyer Chick did a phenomenal breakdown of this entire case. And so, because I would just wanna know more information about that. There can be a ton of shame. So shame is, there's something wrong with me. Guilt is like, I did something wrong. Shame is, there's something wrong with me. And I've worked with a lot of people that maybe they snuck out to meet with someone, but they didn't want anything to happen. Like, they just wanted to hang out. Like, they legit just wanted to hang out. And then something horrific happens, and then they have a lot of fear about telling, because they feel like, I didn't listen, like, I went out without permission. And the thing that I always tell them is like, kids are gonna make mistakes. Like, the fact that you left the house without telling anyone, that did not give that person permission to violate you. Fear of not being believed. So, back in 2003, I think Diddy was at, like, I feel like he was pretty well-known, uh, like, I think he might have been towards the height of his career, and I don't know if a story like this had come out back then, without knowing what I know about Cassie's story, if this had been the first lawsuit that came out, um, I always lean towards hearing all the information anyway. There's a real risk of people not being believed, and then there can also be this fear of being blamed, because even so, the whole process that a person goes through, if they do decide to go straight to the police, it's an incredibly invasive process. Like, they have to do a whole examination. The person has to strip. They have to go over their entire body. Some states have simplified this process, where if somebody reports SA, that, or any type of like domestic violence, that there is a team that comes, where there's a social worker, there's the detective, there's the nurse, the doctor, that everybody, they only have to tell their story once. Because sometimes what'll happen is you tell the story at the ER, and then you tell the story to the detective, and then you have to tell the story to the social, and by then, like, the person has been re-traumatized so much that they just wanna go home. They just wanna take a shower. They just wanna, and so that's why it's really common for individuals to not report. Like I said, there are states that do a better job about, having it be a team process that goes over that, okay? Alright, I thought so. I thought 2003, he was at his peak. I thought so. And oh, okay. Okay. Um, and so, all right, 2 other women. So they've released their names, Liza Gardner and Joy, and forgive me if I'm getting people's names wrong, Dickerson Neal, have also filed suits against him. Okay. So Diddy released a statement, and I'm gonna read it. My face is probably gonna tell it all, and I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. It says, "Enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday." He added, Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. Okay. Oh, my bad. That was on this one. Okay. So his statement is at the bottom of this NBC News thing. Okay. So I read that. All right. Let's go back to this part. So, why people don't come forward, there can also be this fear of punishment or reprisal, and I really feel like that also that applies to because let's say they use substances. Let's say they were drinking underage. Let's say something happened. Um, Often people don't want to get into trouble, and I will say it again. My thing is always that I don't care what the person was wearing. They should people should be able to run up and down the street absolutely unclothed and not be afraid of harm. Now if somebody's doing that and if they're not in a good mental space, people should like get them some help, but like people should be able to live their lives and not be harmed. Imagine that. Sometimes people can feel partly responsible, especially, and it's so common, okay? And we're going to go over those statistics in just a second. That normally, in most situations, it's an acquaintance, a friend, or a intimate partner. Those or family member. Those are the most common ones. It's only of the situations reported, only 19% are strangers. More common than not, it's someone that the person knew, which can add this extra level of confusion. It can add this extra level of trauma to the situation of this is somebody that I like looked up to. This is somebody that I thought good things about. And like I said, like maybe I thought they were attractive or maybe I did, but like I didn't want that. And so that's where I do hope that this individual is connected with a really, really good therapist and that they're getting a lot of help and support. For some people that I work with, sometimes when they're keeping it to themselves, sometimes they don't have as many overt trauma symptoms. Sometimes once they come forward and they're kind of bombarded with everything, they have to go back through the memories, they have to retell everything. Sometimes that can reopen doors and can bring things can sometimes feel worse before they feel better. And so that's where with my survivors during our first appointment, if I'm meeting with someone, I always let them know if they've had any significant stress that we aren't gonna get into the details of it. Like, they can just let me know, like, "Hey, I had a tough childhood," but and that I'm not gonna get into all the nitty-gritties of it day 1, and we haven't built any type of therapeutic relationship. There are some organizations that come in after incidents. So in my area, they have something called Rappahannock Council Against SA, where it's an organization that provides resources and to individuals who are survivors, and they have special training. Sometimes they have groups, and each state. So whatever state you're in, you if anybody is looking for resources or support, because I was searching, looking for different options, and each state seemed to have like state specific resources available. This is all too common. Okay, all too common. And so there can be other traumatic reactions like feeling shocked, dazed, confused, not remembering some details. That's actually really common. Sometimes I think the brain does that to protect people. Like sometimes people disconnect during, and especially times of very, very high stress. Okay. However, many teens may fear that no one will believe them if they don't remember all the details, when not being able to remember all the details is incredibly common. There can be limits to confidentiality. So if I'm working with a teen and if they were harmed by an adult that we can identify and that was like watching them, like if there was a caregiver role, that can often I'm a mandated reporter. If they're under the age of 18, I would have so, like, if I met with her at 17 years old and she told me this, I would have had to report it. I possibly might have had to call to see, is this reportable under my mandated reporter laws? Because, and that's where sometimes people won't give specific details, um, because if they don't tell me who, like, I can't, like, um but yes. All right. There's also a big fear that nothing will be done, and I've seen that happen. I've also seen the person been found not guilty, or, like, it's a mistrial, or their case wasn't even taken by the police because there wasn't enough to go on. And, because often for a criminal case, so the lawsuits that have been filed against Diddy, these are civil cases, and there were the proof of burden, so I'm not a lawyer, but, like, I like law stuff. The proof of burden for civil is lower because criminal cases is beyond a reasonable doubt. And I believe, I could be wrong, y'all, I know there are lots of law nerds and lawyer chicks. I know there are lots of people in here, so I think in civil cases, I wanna say it's, like, beyond the preponderance of the evidence or something like that. I believe that's what civil cases go on. And this was a civil suit, and the reason she was able to find it is or she the reason why she was able to file it is because New York opened its, like, gender-based crimes. So she filed under this, like, gender-based crime, thing. But yeah. Alright. And so I have this resource linked below. Doo, doo, doo. All right. There is an organization called RAIN, and I have all of these resources linked right in the description, where they have a hotline. They also have a chat. And I don't know what, oh, yeah, it's confidential. So confidential. So these hotlines are not mandated reporters, or you would have to check. They look at the FAQs to see if someone is a child, like, are they mandated reporters? I do think a lot of these places, they want to help people get safe. Excuse me. And so sometimes they will often recommend it. All right. Let me come back to the chat, make sure I've missed too much. All right. So the that happens when it's family is that, so with a stranger, I don't have some expectation. Now in general, but, like, I don't have this extra expectation of them keeping I'd be a little suspicious with a stranger. Around family, sometimes you think you can let your guard down, or there's this additional harm that comes. So they've looked at the effects of trauma, and trauma by family or an intimate partner, somebody that you're in a close relationship with, because what it does is it breaks down that community. It breaks down that, like, family structure. It breaks down that sense of, like, of belonging. Like, it can really just so I will say, an individual that I worked with that was trafficked by a gang, what happened was the family would not protect them against their alleged abuser. And so instead of going around their alleged former abuser, they would instead go and know that their gang affiliated boyfriend was going to, like, have them do things. And um when you're working with people who are in it, and that's why sometimes people, like, if they're coming out of being trafficked, they get some really specific types of therapy, because sometimes they have to undo their relation, like, for individuals who are it's against their will, or they're a child. There are specific types of therapy that you do, because sometimes there's this sense of, I just don't wanna be harmed. So if I agree to it, then, like, I can't be harmed, and it can just add this extra layer and an extra dynamic. It's really common for individuals to not report, um, uh, and so wanting me to discuss the other cases that became public because of the law. Ooh, the gynecologist at Columbia University. I will look into that one. So gangs do have this similar affiliation, and often the thing I wanted to mention with gangs is that their initiation process for females, often it's not physical, like they sometimes aren't jumped in unless it's by other women. They're sometimes like intimate. They are sometimes sexed in where and so yes. That's what often has happens. Law nerd and lawyer chick. Yes, I have lots of those here. Um, so there's this sense of belonging, there's this rewiring. I did a video on cults reviewing the Twin Flames universe, the allegations against them, which they deny. The videos were ooh, and so yes, I reviewed that documentary, which was very, very triggering, very, very triggering. And so, scope of the problem, incredibly common. Uh, and so of the ones reported, 90% are female, 10% are male, and the male is often underreported. 55% happen at or near someone's home, 15% in an open public place. And so I don't share any of this to like make people scared. So like we do live in generally like a pretty safe society. And I think when we get down to the part, I this wasn't under this one. I forget. I'm trying to find majority are under the age of 30, and I think college is a big place where this can happen as well, also in the military, college and military. And so there are lots of statistics on that. There is an organization called Brave Next Step, and it has resources for survivors, loved ones, and allies. And some of the resources that I've shared, they have these here. And for North Carolina, they have some legal support. This organization must be based in North Carolina. I did want to talk about unfounded claims because there can be unfounded or false claims that are made. And what happens is law people are always going to come from the perspective of getting all the information. That is what they are going to do first. And there is a process that can help make sure that people are getting accurate information during this process and that they're doing a thorough investigation. The one that I've been watching, and y'all can let me know. So, have y'all been following the Jonathan Majors trial? Have y'all been following the Jonathan Majors trial with his ex? So his ex testified yesterday, to the last 2 days. His ex testified. I was able to hear some YouTubers talk about her testimony, and the allegations are that things oh, do tell. So Jonathan Majors, he okay, so let me pull that up. Cuz I like sharing um like, so y'all have a picture and y'all know exactly what I am talking about. Um, all right. So let's share my screen. All right, there we go. Grace Jabari. Yes, that is his ex. Um, and so Grace Jabari, his ex, so the prosecution brought her up because he's facing a misdemeanor assault charge. Yes. Because they were what she said, what Grace Jabari said is they were in the car and she saw a notification come up on Jonathan Major's phone, and she took his phone out of his hand and she like turned, and in the process he tried to get it back from her and like was kind of like kind of like prying at her fingers to get his phone back. He refused to unlock the phone. She felt like the notification said something to the effect of, like, "I wish I was kissing you," or something like that. Like, that was what was, alleged to have popped up on his phone, and, and so then there is video evidence of him getting out the car to get away from her and running for, like, 5 New York City blocks, because they end up playing that, and they just play him running away from her, and then eventually they both get back into the car, and she ends up, like, going going out drinking that night, and then, she says that she took 2 sleeping pills. She sent him a vague message, something to the effect of, "I'm not gonna leave a note, but you're gonna kn" I don't know. She left him some vague note that he thought meant that she was a danger to herself, and so he called the police. The police come, and she I don't know, like, and I don't think she initially said anything about him, but eventually she ends up making an allegation against him, and it's a bit of a mess. So, a lot of people have been questioning, some of her, because there's video of her and she does not appear to be injured. There is, like, video of her right after this alleged incident where she does not appear to be injured at all, and she says that she was just so upset about the alleged infidelity, and that's why she didn't, but, like, it's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. A whole mess. Okay. And, so that happened. So that happened. So she allegedly, um so he commented, I think he allegedly made a comment about her drinking or something, and he asked her to be more like Coretta Scott King or Michelle Obama. Ugh. Like, that was a thing. That was a thing. Ugh, it's ugh, yeah, and, honestly, with all that's being shared in this case, like, so look, but, and I think a lot of people aren't covering it as much because it sounds like I don't think the jury is gonna find him guilty, because, like, they're literally playing videos of her out, like, and her continuing to go after him. It sounds like she was really mad about what happened and the possibility of the relationship being over. The police found her, like, half undressed on the bathroom floor, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that's how they found her, and it's just, and so he's accused of assaulting her in the back seat of an SUV that he hired, after something popped up saying, I wish I was kissing you." Exactly. And so if she took his phone in most states, and the things that I've heard the lawyers say about this is that people you cannot take somebody's phone. That you can't do that. You can't take someone's phone. They have the right to try to get their property back. Now they're not supposed to harm you in that process, but they're supposed, like, people can try to get their property back. And so when we talk about allegate oh, so he's now, I think he's dating Megan Good now, like, I think shortly after the Jabari thing. I think, like, shortly after this whole I believe he started dating Megan Good. Um, and so when she was asked about her pain, she said, "I had a lot of pain, but my emotional state was only thinking about the infidelity. I was thinking, 'Who is this girl?'" Ugh. And so, ooh, wow. Okay, is that true? Okay. Majors has denied her accusations and said she was the aggressor in the March 25th incident. The defense claimed Monday that Jabari slapped, clawed, and otherwise physically attacked him so blatantly that night, the driver of their for hire SUV called her psycho girl, which I don't like people using psycho in that way, but like, because I think it can stigmatize mental health, but I get it. And for anyone that talks about race, so Jabari is European, so she's and he's black. And I believe during part of her testimony, she said that she questioned talking with the police because she knew he didn't trust the police because he's a black man. And I don't think that went off the way that she thought it was going to. Oh, and so it's if y'all wanna look into that one, I will put the link in the chat. There are lots of great people on YouTube that have been covering that one as well. But so I can't cover everything. I try to cover things that are, like, current, because with things that are current, it just, that sometimes interests me more. I was being honest, like, so the current stuff that is interesting to me. I will be following, especially this 4th case with, because I think the lawyer, so it's the same lawyer as the Cassidy trial, and or not even trial because it was settled in a day. So the Cassidy lawsuit, she has the same lawyer, and I based on that person's writing, that person seems to have their ducks in a row, and we will see what happens with that one. I love sharing these opinions. Like, this is truly what I enjoy doing. I appreciate you all sending me when you all have questions about things. I'm also for members. There's a member only post where I am looking for moderators, and that's a volunteer thing. I'm not in at a position to, but eventually my goal would be to fund moderators. But for now, that would be a volunteer thing. If anyone's interested, you can look at the member only post and complete that Google form, and then I'll reach out to people. You do have to be 18 or older just to be able to be a moderator. And so, and there's no like requirement that you have to be at like there's because it's volunteer. So if you're here, just help me moderate the chat. T and my mom are like two of my mods. T, I know from back in my Clubhouse days. Ooh, was that 2020, T? Oh my gosh, that was so long ago. I so appreciate so the chat, you all are the best because I saw Natalie cover this the other day, and sometimes that's where it might be nice when streams have more of a tight-knit community where we can just talk about these things and we don't have stuff going off in the chat. Yes, 20 to 22. I thought so. I thought so. Like this community is absolutely amazing, and I so appreciate each and every one of you. Um I truly do. My kiddo needs to be fed. So I'm going to go on ahead and close things out. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you again for joining me. And please be sure to check out the resources in the description if you or someone you know would benefit from them. I always hope to cover these things with a sensitivity and care that can really just help give voice to victims. And I don't make up my mind until like we have all the information. We don't have all of the information. Based on the things I've seen so far, ugh, ooh, it'll be interesting to see if a pattern develops. And so I'm gonna go feed the kiddo. I hope you'll have a good one. Good night.